We have some big news out of the NHL this morning, and it looks as though Winnipeg Jet defenseman Dustin Byfuglien might actually be contemplating retirement, which is why he's on personal leave right now. So we're going to discuss that situation. Plus, Ben Hutton has finally signed an NHL contract, and we have the latest NHL trade rumors involving the Penguins and the St. Louis Blues. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some breaking news from around the NHL, some very interesting things going on here today. First of all, I want to cover off Ben Hutton signing an NHL contract, which was announced late last night with the Los Angeles Kings as a one-year deal worth $1.5 million. Of course, Ben Hutton, formerly of the Vancouver Canucks, was not tendered a qualifying offer, thus making him an unrestricted free agent. And he's one of the more coveted names that's been rumored out there to have lots of options. 4, 5, 6 teams in the mix that we've heard throughout this offseason. But he's yet to sign until now. But the Kings are a team that's been rumored to be in the mix for quite some time, so it's not a huge surprise that that's where he ended up. LA is certainly a team that could use a player like him, and I think it should be a pretty decent fit. It's only a short-term deal, pretty low money, so it's pretty low risk for both sides. They kind of feel things out and see if there's a better fit there longer term. But Ben Hutton will join the Kings in training camp and get going with them. Now, the other bigger blockbuster news, I think, this morning coming out of TSN's Bob McKenzie involves Winnipeg Jets defenseman Dustin Byfuglien. Now, as we know, a few days ago, it was announced that the Winnipeg Jets granted a personal leave to Dustin Byfuglien, and he was going to be away from the team for a period of time, but they never really indicated, of course, because it's personal, the reasons why or how long or anything of that nature. There really hasn't been a whole lot of talk around it because of the nature of the situation until this morning when this came out on Twitter from TSN insider Bob McKenzie. He says Dustin Byfuglien, currently on personal leave for Winnipeg, is believed to be using the time to ponder his NHL future. I'm not saying Byfuglien is retiring. I'm not saying he's coming back to play, only that he's contemplating his options and there's no timetable for a decision. Neither the Jets nor Byfuglien's agent Ben Hankinson responded to a request for comment. Byfuglien is 34 years old. He's in the fourth year of a 5-year contract with an average annual value of $7.6 million, although he is scheduled to earn $8 million this coming season and $6 million next season. So obviously this is some big news out of Winnipeg. This is a team that's gone through some major transitions due to their cap complications and other reasons throughout this offseason here. They've already had some massive blows to that blue line. Of course, they could not come to terms with Jacob Trouba. I think Trouba made it clear over the last number of years he did not want to play in Winnipeg long term. Ended up getting traded to the New York Rangers. So obviously that's a big blow to the team because Trouba really was becoming a top NHL defenseman. Of course, they also lost some other D back there like Tyler Myers and Ben Sherratt, also gone from the team. Having Byfuglien go too is 4 of their top 5 defensemen from last year, outside of Josh Morrissey, who they just extended. Really, like that's a massive blow to this team. Not only does Byfuglien bring some offense from the blue line, he's 34, he's a great leader in that team. He really plays a massive role. So this Jets team could be in some serious trouble here if Dustin Byfuglien does decide to walk away from the game. I mean, given his average annual value, if he actually retires, well, then obviously that would no longer count against their cap hit. So at least they'd have the flexibility to try and somehow replace him. But replacing a guy like Byfuglien is certainly no easy task and not something that would happen overnight by any means. It would be a really big blow to this Jets team. Now, you get all that happening on the blue line. Then, of course, you get Patrick Laine and Kyle Connors still not signed up front. I mean, those two guys are responsible for a lot of goals that the Jets have scored over the past couple years. We've heard a lot of comments from Laine lately, calling out the team and his teammates and voicing his displeasures over his ice time and his usage and where he's playing in the lineup. And I know the team and many of the players have commented as well, and they don't seem to be too fazed by this and the fact that Laine basically wants to play more and score more and play in the big line with the top players. That's all fine and dandy, but there really does seem to be a bit of a divide between the two. So when you throw this Byfuglien news in the mix here, I really have a lot of sympathy for Kevin Cheveldayoff. I think it's fair to say that as of today, he's probably got the toughest job in hockey in the NHL with all these things on his desk now. Not only does he not have two of his top forwards signed, but now, after all the depletion on the blue line, he might be losing Big Buff as well. I mean, obviously, this is not 100% confirmed. Byfuglien and his agent would not speak about it, but the fact there's no timetable for his return or a response into when he may even come back is still a big blow as it is. I think it's at the very least pretty likely that he ends up missing training camp, and at this stage of his career, to miss training camp is not going to be easy if he does decide he wants to continue playing and come back as well. So I don't know if he's dealing with some injuries and maybe he's just not sure, what he should do moving forward. I know he's dealt with a lot over his career. He's had some concussions before. Maybe he's kind of weighing out all the options. I guess we really won't know 100% unless he comes out and comments on the situation, and he very well might not do that until a longer term decision on his future is made. But really, the Winnipeg Jets have been a contender the past couple of years. To lose this guy too would just be a massive blow, and is really, in my opinion, going to set them back. I mean, that blue line is not going to be anywhere near as good as it has been the past couple of years, and that blue line's been a big part of their success. And if you take away all the goals on the sticks from Laine and Connor, if they can't get them signed here in the next week or so, and if they end up missing all of training camp, really, that's really not a good situation. I'd have to go ahead and say that the Jets likely could end up missing the playoffs and really taking some major steps back. So I guess we will see if there's any further updates on this Dustin Byfuglien news. I will certainly make additional videos or report on it as necessary. So where it is personal and we don't have confirmation from him, obviously, Bob McKenzie has some inside sources, and has this information that he's putting out there on Twitter. He wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't relevant. So I guess we will see. But either way, some big news there out of Winnipeg. Now let's discuss the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, last year's Stanley Cup champions. Quite a story, going from worst to first. Worst in the NHL in early January, going on to win a Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington's crazy run that he went on. Obviously, they had a tremendous amount of success and captured the Stanley Cup, but now they're facing some more contract complications, which obviously comes with any NHL team. So a couple of their big names, including captain Alex Pietrangelo and forward Braden Shen, are entering the final year of their contract. GM Doug Armstrong has expressed interest in retaining both players, and he has had conversations with the players in their camps around extensions. But I think it's fair to say, based on those conversations, reports are indicating that it looks like they're going to kind of let it play out, but there is interest from the Blues to retain them. But that doesn't really mean a whole lot, in my opinion. Obviously, if the Blues suffer any kind of Stanley Cup hangover, or if things aren't going as well this year, and really it's not going to be an easy task to defend that championship. We see many teams, capture a title and then come back to next year and just not be quite the same, even though they're, largely the same group for the most part. But those two guys are players that had a lot of trade speculation around them last year, early in the season when things were not going well, and I do believe the interest is genuine on the Blues and Armstrong's part to retain them and to sign them to longer term deals. But at the same time, I'm sure that Doug Armstrong's aware and smart enough GM to know that signing these guys to some mega long-term contracts because of that Stanley Cup might not be really in the team's best interest. You don't want to overpay and overextend some of these guys, even though you kind of feel a little bit of debt of gratitude for them helping bring a Stanley Cup to the team and to the franchise. But either way, I would not be shocked if the team gets off to a slower start and things are not going as planned, that these two guys very well could end up on the trade bait board by middle of the year, like they did last year, if things do not go the way that they're hoping for. Even though Doug Armstrong was very patient last year and it paid off, I think he's wise enough to know that that's likely not going to happen 2 years in a row. Now, we also have some NHL trade rumors out of the Penguins organization. There's reports indicating that GM Jim Rutherford has made attempts during this current offseason to trade young goaltender Tristan Jarry. Obviously, between Matt Murray and Casey DeSmith, there's really not much room at the NHL level. They're also concerned about losing a goaltender to waivers once the rosters have to be set here at the end of training camp, and it's believed that he is continuing to try to make a move here so that they can hopefully avoid that. I mean, we saw last year what happened to the Maple Leafs, losing two goaltenders on waivers, and I'm sure they don't want that to happen, where they can try to recoup some sort of other asset that they can put forth in the organization to recoup here for that player. I mean, Jarry, at one point, Tristan Jarry was kind of looked upon as being a potential goalie of the future, and then came along Matt Murray, who really accelerated quickly to the NHL. He's got a couple Stanley Cups under his belt now, and then recently Casey DeSmith has kind of outplayed him as well to kind of earn that full-time backup role as well. Now, depending on how the Penguins go about it, I even speculated before, it was just my own talk without having any sources at the NHL, that maybe it might make more sense to trade DeSmith, which would help them free up a little bit more salary cap space if they feel that's necessary, because obviously obviously they got Pettersson under contract, which was their final contract to look after, but they really don't have a whole lot of cap flexibility. And even though moving to Smith instead of Jerry wouldn't create a whole lot of extra room, but it might help, and I think it would be something that he might actually consider doing. At this point, he hasn't received a satisfactory offer for Tristan Jarry, but there is belief that he's continuing to shop him to try to find a move here before the rosters have to be set and the season gets underway. Once we get further into training camp and we see some teams who might be looking for a goaltender, there might be something open up and we might see the Penguins make a move here. So that is all your latest updates for today. Certainly want to know what your thoughts are, especially on the Dustin Byfuglien situation down below. If he actually does not come back and ends up retiring, can the Winnipeg Jets salvage this season and have any hope of being a playoff team given everything else that's transpired with that franchise? Let me know your comments down below and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future videos, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.